Does life exist outside our solar system? Are beings from beyond the stars visiting our tiny little blue planet? Perhaps we should ask the residents of Flatwoods, West Virginia and Falkville, Alabama, two sleepy southern hamlets thrust into the annals of alien folklore. What happened on that hillside in West Virginia? What did an officer of the law encounter in a field in Alabama? Find out tonight on Everything Vaguely Paranormal. Hello and welcome to Everything Vaguely Paranormal. I am Ryan Roberts, and these are my colleagues and partners in crime, Shelley Pruitt and Blake Smith. And
Hello.
Tonight, we're going to be discussing cryptids, aliens.
We don't know.
Maybe a little bit of both. For the Alabama Metal Man in Falkville, Alabama, and the Flatwoods Monster in Flatwoods, West Virginia. And I think we're going to start it off with the Alabama Metal Man, and I'm going to turn it over to Blake. And Blake is going to tell us the story.
Absolutely. So the Alabama Metal Man, we found kind of in passing. So little tidbit, backstory, how this came across our little desk. I got this wonderful book that has over 250 furry and creepy cryptid creatures, whatever you want to call it, that is divided up by state. And Shelley, hold it together.
I'm doing my best.
Y'all missed a really good pre-show broadcast. You can catch that on our Patreon when it goes live.
Oh, my Lord.
But anyways, so back to this. We were thumbing through, and of course, I was thumbing through, and of course, the first state in this book is Alabama. Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to say this wrong, am I? What's Alabama? Alabama, Alaska. Okay, Alabama. And so... thumbing through there, and I came across this thing that said Alabama Metal Man, and I went, what the shit is the Alabama Metal Man? So this is obviously a way less known cryptid alien, whatever you want to call it. So I decided to chase the rabbit hole and went far down into this thing, and what I found out was quite interesting. So to jump right on into it.
Well, the Alabama Metal Man, I actually had never heard of. And I mean, I'm a big alien fan. I like cryptids. I'm not nearly the cryptid fan that Ryan is, but I'm a big fan of them. But this one where you mentioned, I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard of that one. And you were like, score. I found one that one of the two of you hadn't heard of. And by the way, we do that, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
We try to find one that the other two have not heard of. Blake got a big win with one last night. and we'll be putting that on there because there was one that Ryan and I, neither one of us had heard of, but it sounds fascinating.
Hold on. We're just going to throw it out there because it will be a topic. All I'm going to say to our listeners right now and viewers currently is Missouri space penguins. That's it. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah. Much like with the Alabama Metal Man. He comes up with it. I'm like, what? I have never even begun to hear of anything like that. So, begun. Sorry.
Blake had the win last night on coming up with the new cryptid. Mm-hmm. So, but Alabama Metal Man. So I'm ready to hear about him.
Okay.
Or her,
so
or it.
It, him, her, they, I don't know.
Whatever they may be.
Yeah. So Alabama Metal Man takes place on October the 17th of 1973 in Falkville, Alabama. Now, Falkville, Alabama is located in more of the northern central area of Alabama. And it should be noted that this takes 6 days after the Pascagoula alien abduction, which is a case that the government actually took very seriously. So once it all came about and everything, there was a lot of back and forth about, okay, is it just somebody, trailing off of this alien abduction over here, or was this actually something? So what happens is there is a call placed this night, right before 10 p.m. to a 911 operator from this frantic and hysterical woman who still to this day remains anonymous. And all she tells the dispatcher is, look, I just seen a spaceship land in the property of Bobby Summerford. I'm freaked out, basically.
Wait, Bobby Summerford. Yeah, that sounds like somebody to have shit land in his yard. Oh, yeah, up there on Bobby's place. Go ahead, Ryan, do the voice.
I synced it.
Yeah, I synced it. Damn it, Bobby.
Damn it, Bobby. Why you got god dang things landing in your field?
We worked hard to keep that lawn nice.
So, being also the realtor I am, because it was never pinpointed on the map about where this spaceship sighting took place along with the Alabama Metal Man, I decided to do a real estate research for land grants and all that kind of stuff and who owns the land. And I never really got to a pinpoint thing because the Summerfords, there came up like 64 matches in this city and in the county. And best I could figure out is it's going to happen on either the west or south side of the town, because they described later on which way it was running. But I could actually never find the parcel of land that it took place on. But let's just say lots of pastures out there. So lady calls in, says, dude, just saw a spaceship land in the yard of Bobby Summerford. You need to get out here. So dispatcher calls the then police chief, Jeff Greenhall, sorry, words are hard, who is spending a relaxing night at home. And he decides, you know what? Okay, I'll take this sworn duty to protect and serve. So I'll go out there. So he reaches over, he snags up his keys, he snags up his handcuffs, he grabs his service revolver, and almost as like an afterthought, he grabs his Polaroid camera. Because I would too, just.
I mean, hell yes.
Investigators we are.
Yeah, somebody tells me something landed in a field, I'm like, I need to document evidence of this. If I find whatever the hell it is, I want to be like, hey, I'm not lying. Look at this thing. I saw this.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I want to grab whatever I can to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, a little bit about Jeff. Jeff is 26 years old at the time. He had just taken up the position as the police chief back in January of 1973. So he is like 9 months into his
He
service.
has that new cop smell.
Yes, exactly. He does. So, of course, he's gung-ho. He's ready to go, and he heads out there. Well, when he arrives to the area that this took place, he didn't see a spaceship. He didn't see anything, actually. So he was like, okay, what's going on? And he gets in his patrol car, and he starts driving the perimeter of Bobby Summerford's property. And he happens upon this gravel road, and he turns down it, and he goes about 75 feet, and bam, there he is, right in front of him. This humanoid figure is standing right in front of him. And at first, he can't understand exactly what he's seeing because it's this shiny object, but it looks like a person, but it doesn't look like a person. And so, I'm sorry, y'all.
Oh, you're okay, man.
Excuse
no
me.
worries.
So he was slightly taller than 6 feet and wearing a reflective material. Do you have a question, Ryan? Sorry, I saw your hand kind of.
No, you're fine. What I was going to say is, first off, if you're telling me that's a UFO or some kind of craft landed in a field, and I'm out there by myself, of course, I'm going to have a surface revolver, and I'm going to, and grab your Polaroid camera. But you got to imagine he's on edge out there driving out there by himself because he don't know what the hell's out there. He don't know what he's going to come across. Is he going to come across some sort of craft? Is he going to come across a bunch of people who ain't supposed to be out there in the field? Who knows what? And did he come around the corner when he saw this, or he just?
So he turned down a gravel road and he went about 75 feet down that gravel road, and then bam, there it was.
He sees the Tin Man.
Now, I ain't gonna lie to you. if I see how tall did you say it was, 7 to 8 foot?
He was slightly taller than 6 feet, is what. Now, this is all from an interview recently that took place. I couldn't pinpoint the exact date, sometime between July the 10th of 2020 and July the 10th of 2021, because the article says it was within the last year, and that article was posted on July 10th of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So this is from Jeff Greenhouse's interview of this article during that time. So he is, we're 50 years later at this point.
If I see this, I ain't gonna lie to you, I'd shit my damn britches if I came around the corner and I saw something like that standing in the middle of the road.
You
and
ain't
somebody
lying.
told me there was a UFO that just landed. No way.
Yeah, you ain't
So,
lying. So, and this is just a quick picture of Jeff Greenhouse. That's just him on service that was just snapped of him. That does have not related to this. It's just kind of give you a visual what this.
Jeff's a good looking
looks
man.
like. Yeah. So
Of course,
that's just him.
me. I like a mold. So yeah, Jeff's a good looking man.
So that's just him doing his daily duties. So, he described what it looked like as aluminum foil, and this is a quote: aluminum foil, something like rubbing mercury on nickel, real bright, but just as smooth as glass, and different angles give different lighting.
So
Okay.
like almost like there was like the best way I can describe this, almost like it was like a prism material. Like if you like shine like light at a prism, it was like different angles of lighting.
That's the way that I took it. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like how you have like an iridescent color or something like that. When you're looking at it one way, it could appear a little bit of green. Look at it another way, a little bit of blue, or something like that. So like different angles, different lighting give different color. That's the way that he described it.
That is, I mean, because here, like I thought it was just the straight metal, like he was just made of some sort of metal, but I didn't, I wasn't even thinking about some sort of like crystalline material on the outside. That is,
almost, that's
very
a good way to
interesting.
describe it. Yeah, that's how I would kind of would put it, is like a crystalline something. And so he also said, as he's staring at this thing, the creature's movement was not human-like. It was very, he says, like a child or even monkey-like. And he actually is quoted as saying, "Whenever I think about it, when I was a child, I used to watch the movie Lost in Space. And the robot in that movie, it kind of reminded me of that to some extent." So, and for those viewers and listeners who do not know, this is the robot.
Is that the Danger
about.
Will Robinson? Danger Will? Is that the? Am I thinking the right thing? Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that robot that's on the screen right now is the one that it reminded him of. So
Okay.
So at first, of course, he gets up there and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm dealing with an idiot." Okay, so
Are you sure he didn't find a still in Alabama?
Who knows? Well, let me tell you more of the story, and then I'll let you draw that conclusion. So at first he thought, "Oh my God, I'm dealing with an idiot." So he gets out of his car or his patrol car, and he pulls the Polaroid camera up and he snaps 4 Polaroids of the Alabama Metal Man. And this is the
actual
4
pictures?
actual photos that he took of that night. Now, the first 2, they said, go for it, Ryan.
So before we continue, had you not described to me what he said it was covered in, I think this was a full wearing tinfoil, but based on the way he described it, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's I can't say yes or no on that.
From whatever it looks like to me, just looking at it, it almost looks like that tinsel you used to put on your trees at Christmas time. It looks like he's wearing one of those like tinsel all over it kind of thing. It doesn't look smooth. It almost looks like it has like that movement quality about it, like that tinsel you can never get off the floor at Christmas once it falls on the floor.
But think about the way he described it too, though. The way that the light was hitting these things and how the light was reflecting in multiple points of light and different angles coming off of this thing. So that makes much more sense now that I'm looking at that picture.
Yeah. So these were the 4 that he took. Now, the first 2, obviously, up top didn't come out as best they could, but he happened to grab the last 2, which are some of the more profound that you can actually see what it looks like. And there was also one that they kind of cleaned up throughout the year, so you kind of see it a little bit better as well. That's more of the
it looks like metal fur on the top.
Yeah.
And it does look, he's exactly right. It looks like the Danger Will Robinson robot from Lost in Space. Yeah.
Right. So he steps and he says something to this humanoid, this creature, and
Mhm.
something to the effect of "Howdy, stranger," to which he doesn't get any response.
He says, "Howdy, stranger."
Howdy, stranger. Yes, because that's what I want to do. I'm
I
out
like
in the middle
old
of
Jeff.
the
I
field.
already tell you. I like him. Howdy, stranger.
I do
Can we
too,
chat?
because
Come here, boy.
because he's out in this field on this gravel road all by himself, and he sees this thing that he can't even escape. Howdy,
Yeah.
stranger.
Yeah. I mean, what do you say? You know?
No,
I
I'm
pull out
Na-
that
na-
gun. I go, "You need to stop."
Well, I mean, do you just say nanu nanu at him? I mean, what do you do? You know, like
nanu.
Shazbot.
So, so he says, "Howdy, stranger," gets no response from it, and he thinks, "Okay, I don't want to push my luck." So he turns to his patrol car. He puts his camera down, puts the Polaroids that popped out down on the console, and he turns the blue lights on. And so one of the articles described, of course, we're never going to know what this thing was thinking, processing with
Mhm.
these lights or whatever. But it said in the time that he turns the lights on, maybe this creature or humanoid entity thought, "Oh, I'm being attacked by a light beam from a human. I need to go." Yeah, I know. I just thought I'd throw that in for comical reasons. So he does. He turns on the blue lights.
I got to tell you,
And-
when blue and red lights come up behind me, I get nervous too. I think that's a natural
Right,
reaction.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So he flips on the blue lights. He sets everything down on his console, and he looks up. And as he turns to look back, the thing's moving. It's moving away from him.
Wow.
And he's like, "Crap, this thing is getting away from me." He still doesn't know what he's looking at. He still don't know what's happening. He still thinks he's dealing with an idiot. So what does he do? He takes off after it as well. I don't know if I would have been that brave, but
He had that new cop smell. He got something to prove.
I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, you got a 6-foot metal man bolting across the field from you. I think I'll just let him go. You know.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
no,
had-
I'd chase him.
Now, however, one thought did cross my mind that he is actually quoted as saying, the thought that crossed my mind was, "Well, fuck, I got a car. I mean, just chase it down, and if I have to, I'll hit it." And he's quoted as saying, he pursued it thinking, quote, "If I have to, run over it."
That's some crack police work there.
Yeah, the motor pool's going to hate him.
You ain't lying. Yeah. But that never happened. So he did say, and I quote again, "It wasn't moving like you or I would move. It's like it had springs on its feet as it was moving. And in its gait, in the gate, I guess that's what I'm trying to think of. The span that he was taking with each step was clearing 3 meters at a time, is what Jeff said.
Wait a minute. You're doing metrics. 3 meters. What is that? 9 feet?
Yes.
Meters?
Yeah,
Yeah.
3 meters. That
Yeah.
equals 9 feet. You got. Yeah, I didn't take that new math. Okay, can we talk in feet and not meters and
9
meters
feet.
and
9 feet. 9 feet.
Kilocom? What
He's
the hell ever
basically-
they're called?
With each step he's taken and taken off running, he's basically clearing 9 feet with each stride. That's the word I was thinking. With each stride, he's clearing 9 feet.
With the springiness in his step, and this is something we'll probably cover later on too, it kind of reminds me of like the descriptions of Spring-Heeled Jack people had in England, where they said that he was like bouncing on his heels and he was taking long strides as he was going down the street running away from people. So that kind of a little bit of a similarity there with Spring-Heeled Jack.
Yeah. So he's in this patrol car and he's driving right behind it. And he's trying to catch it and all this stuff. And he's taking off running. This thing's taking off running. And he looks down and he's going 35 miles an hour. And he is still not catching this thing. Until out of nowhere, he crashes his car into a ditch or service car. And
Wait, so he's driving through a field, like regular
he's
old
driving
field,
through a
like
field.
pasture,
Yeah.
or like a cornfield,
Pasture.
or
it's
I
just
mean,
from what I understood and what I took that it never went into in-depth detail about what the field was, but I'm assuming that it was just a regular pasture because all it said was the bumpy terrain. Even on the bumpy terrain, he was still able to reach speeds of 35 miles an hour,
okay.
but was never able to catch this entity that he was chasing or this humanoid that he was
You go through a pasture at 35 miles an hour, you're gonna blow a tire on something.
Yeah, you ain't lying. So he ends up crashing his patrol car in a ditch, and the thing disappears into the darkness, and it's never seen again.
It just felt like running.
That was good, Ryan.
I think.
That was really
What is
good.
that? I think I'll go home now.
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
I think I'll go home now.
So in the weeks and days that lead or follow this, he takes the 4 photographs and he puts them into a safe place. Never tells exactly where, but a safe place. And this reporter comes out and starts interviewing him. Well, he does do the interview and he gives them the story and all that stuff. And the story is released on the radio and television, all that stuff. And that's where basically his life went to shit after that. He, within the months of him coming forward, of course, very quickly, he was terminated by the town council. Although later on in life, he says that he resigned. I found both, whether he resigned or terminated. I'm not 100%
It was probably
sure.
one of those things where we say,
Yeah.
if you resign, we're not going to fire you, but if you resign, you
Yeah,
still get
a mutual
yeah.
agreement. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I
So
hear
he
him.
probably was voluntarily terminated.
Right.
So-
Right. Exactly. So his automobile engine gave out, burned up, whatever you want to call it, just quit on him, blew a transmission, whatever you want to call it. His marriage falls apart because his wife divorces him and leaves him. And if that wasn't enough, the trailer house that he was living in at the time burned down.
Damn, this sounds like a country song.
You ain't lying.
Good Lord.
Why'd you have to put him in a trailer house?
That's what it was. That's what he said.
Hey, man. And he lost his dog. Well, I don't know if he lost his dog, but he lost his car, his wife, his job, his house. Damn.
True. He ended up with like withdrawing himself from the public for years after that. He said that people just made his life way too difficult. People who were supposed to be his friends. He found out that he couldn't really trust anyone, and he ran and went places to just try and get away from it. Basically,
He was the cop that saw a little green man.
Yeah. He never actually saw any type of like financial gain or notoriety from this. Even though his story has been featured in multiple books and in multiple episodes of certain things, he never really got any fame, notoriety, or financial gain from it. So that always lends a little bit more credibility for me and my standpoint. If you're not doing it for fame or fortune,
and to maintain that story for so long, too, is just
so. But here's the kicker, though. So 10 years later, almost to the day, his house gets broken into. Okay.
What?
So he files a police report. This is in 1983. He files a police report. So it is documented that his house was broken into. Now, the only things that were taken from his house were his service revolver, his shotgun, and the 4 photos of the Alabama Metal Man. All 3 things that he had with him or in his vehicle the night that he had the sighting and the encounter. That was it.
Wow.
Talk about weird.
That is strange. And no one knew where they were. Like he had them in a secret hidden place.
Correct. He kept them in a safe place. So don't know what that safe place was.
Wow.
Could have been a safe, could have been under a floorboard. No idea. But he says,
well, but you got to think about it. A shotgun and pictures aren't going to necessarily fit in the same little box.
No.
Well, right.
So somebody, I mean,
it's strange.
Yeah. Who in the hell would have known? I mean, if he's got this as like a failsafe, like if nobody believes me, I have this put back, and only he's the one that knows the location. How in the hell did someone break into his house and just steal those items and nothing else?
Right.
Huh.
Exactly. Very strange.
That is
very weird.
Very interesting.
And he says, he's quoted in saying as that, I learned a lot of from his mindset and his own words. He's quoted in saying as that is, I took them out, talking about the pictures, and looked at them frequently for the 10 years that I had them. I thought, that's really weird. The only 3 things I had with me that night, the shotgun in the car, the service revolver, and the pictures, all 3 of them came up missing.
I understand. I understand the pictures going missing if somebody broke in, but why the revolver and the shotgun? That makes no sense even more.
No idea.
Huh.
No idea. And the weird part is why nothing else? Why
did he still have a service revolver? Most of the time, those are issued by the police department. And if you are voluntarily terminated, they usually make you give those things back, right?
Okay. I will say this, just a little bit of Falkville history here. This is 1973, and he was the one and only police officer of the entire city.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
So it was probably more or less like, I've got a revolver, I can do the job. Do you want to hire me on? Type
Mhm.
thing.
Got
Or
it.
you've got all the votes.
Or
Yeah.
perhaps
Whatever.
he purchased his own gun to be used. And
That's
so,
also-
yeah, okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
I'm with you now.
I mean,
Okay.
this is a very, very tiny town back in 1973.
Okay.
Where again, he was the one and only police officer.
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
Oh, I'm glad you looked that up because that was kind of hanging me up there. I'm going,
Yeah.
don't they make you give your service revolver back anyway? But
Mhm.
So now, and of course, and I mean, and that's really that's the sighting, that's the encounter, that's all of it with a little bit of the aftermath. But one of the things that I kept coming across in my research was, is it just truly a hoax, or is it truly an encounter? And that was one of the things that I started to kind of research even further. And I just want to throw some of my thoughts out to y'all and hear some of y'all's as well. First off, my whole thing is, if you're driving 35 miles an hour and you're not catching something and it looks to be a human to the best of your ability of what you know a human to be, and you can't catch it, you're trailing it. That right there, to me, that's a little weird. I think that adds some
well, the
credibility.
fact he's bouncing around the field like a damn bunny rabbit.
Right. It's clear 9 meters at a time. Now, his story may seem strange, but one of the things that I went down to see is, first things first, in a small town like that, if they're going to terminate him or you voluntarily resign, they're going to destroy his credibility.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's it. Like, no, he's just the one-off crazy lone wolf man that we don't think that way. We think it was all a hoax. I looked up for research for if the police department or the town council, well, he was the only man in the police department, but if the town council or the city itself just tried to destroy his credibility, could find nothing. Nothing.
So maybe it was one of those things that they were like, hey, if you just resign, we shut up and you shut up.
Yeah.
And nobody's the wiser. Did it say what he
Yeah.
did later on in his life?
It did not. I tried to come across that. The only thing that I could really find was about his family, about how him and his wife had raised children. I could not figure out if they like co-parented or that was before the divorce. But that was really all that I got after this incident, other than him just running and moving kind of constantly around to just kind of get away from people and get away from the situation.
Yeah, and I was going to say the most unbelievable part about the story to me is the picture. That's the most unbelievable part of the story. However, like I said earlier, I didn't know that there was a crystalline substance on the outside of the suit, so the picture makes more sense to me now.
Right.
But the thing about it is why maintain that story for that long and move around that much if it wasn't true? Like, there's and from my research, what I found is everyone said he was a pretty upstanding member of the community. Like, people, like, he was very believable. He never lied to anyone. He was a very nice man. And they said the only scruple that the community had with him was this story. And his story never changed over the many years that he told it. The story remained the same. There was never any embellishment other than what he had always said. There was no embellishment on his behalf.
And you would think at some point, if it truly was, whenever he saw what was happening to his life, if it truly was a hoax, he'd come back and like, y'all, I made it up.
Yeah.
Right. With it, I mean, as much damage as it did to his life, like you just said,
Because even the biggest hoaxes are eventually found out. Even the ones that people try to take to their grave, they've told somebody. And nobody seems to have come out and talked about this.
Now, I'll add one more fact about this case because I wanted to wait till this discussion to throw this in there. So the Polaroids that he captured,
what happened to those?
Somebody took them in the break-in.
And they've never resurfaced.
Well, they not to my knowledge. Now, prior to the break-in, while he still had them, MUFON actually did what am I trying to say? Like an investigation into the Polaroids themselves. And what they were able to determine, like their conclusion of the case was, we cannot confirm that it is a hoax, but we also cannot confirm that it is real. because in the negative, they say that there's what appears to be a spacecraft in the negatives. Now, again, well, I think we touched on how a negative works on a Polaroid last night when we were kind of debating back and forth on a Polaroid camera.
Right.
But we know that they pop out, but we do believe, I've never taken one apart. I don't know.
Well,
y'all
if you've
have,
ever
but-
taken one apart, there's this thin little film in it that basically where the light hits it that causes the chemical reaction that causes to put the mirror image onto the part of the picture you can see.
Okay.
And there's that thin little. I've taken a lot of Polaroids, especially when I'm tearing up excess photos. The hell with 'em. Yeah, I've seen the inside of a Polaroid or two. But yeah, so there actually is that thin little film in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, but wouldn't MUFON have had to destroy the photo in order to see that? And tell me if you
It's true,
maybe I
true.
missed it. How did MUFON get the pictures, and did they actually inspect them in person, or did he mail them to him and trust that they would mail them back? That's I'm a little bit foggy on.
Yeah, never said. It never said. I tried to go down that little detail, but never figure out how they were sent to him, how long they had them, what they did with them after they were done. Did obviously here's where I'm drawing conclusions here. Obviously, he would have to have sent them, and they get sent back for them to be taken later on, because they're never seen again, to my knowledge, that I was able to find after they disappear from the break-in.
Mm-hmm.
So they're actually, whether anybody knew where they were or not. Now you have MUFON who's gotten involved, and that's a big network. Maybe somebody thought that they just really needed these for their collection, and guess what? They had his address. Maybe they say, "Hey, I'm from MUFON." Maybe somebody stopped by. Maybe somebody saw where the pictures were. I bet it was those MUFON assholes got in there and took his pictures.
I mean,
the Men in Black.
Men in Black went in and got him.
I mean, that's also been a thing where people had like photos of UFOs, or they had some sort of evidence, and they come home and their house is broken into, and that's the only thing that's missing. So that could be it. I mean, it could be.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll say it could be the government. It could be whatever the Men in Black that we know are, whatever they're affiliated with, could have came and got what was in there.
So do you think, in order for them to have been able to see the inside of this Polaroid, because again, they didn't say yes or no, they said maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, he was thinking maybe too. So MUFON didn't really tell him anything. But do you think the way that maybe they were able to get a glimpse of the negative, we have lots of high powered equipment now. I'm not sure how much they had. I guess this would have been between 72 and 83 when the house was broken into.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that they have had a lot more access to very much more advanced equipment. Do you think perhaps they would have been able to shine a light through it and maybe get some kind of copy of what the underlying image was of that Polaroid that maybe not have been projected onto the actual photo paper that you saw after it came out? Because you said the negative, and again, that thin little strip on the inside would have been the negative. I wonder if they would have popped light through it, because to the best of our knowledge, the pictures were not damaged, correct?
To the best of my knowledge.
Now,
Yeah.
So,
do we have a picture of the negative? Is there anything that exists that you were able to find?
Could not find it.
Hmm.
I know this is where I questioned this encounter all the way through. I'm not gonna lie, but there's just things about it that kind of lead me. I don't know. I leaned more towards, okay, this might have actually happened. And my biggest thing that I get hung up on is not so much the negatives and the pictures and stuff like that, but it is just the no evidence of trying to destroy the credibility of this person who is being let go or resigning from the police department as the chief of police. I mean, he says he wrecked his patrol car. I mean, they're not even coming out saying, "Oh, no, he didn't do that. That didn't happen." There's nothing negating what his story is. And I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like, hey, we part ways. Like Shelly just said, we part ways. We'll be quiet. You stay quiet. And to me, that lends some credibility
to
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
They weren't trying to go, hey, this never happened.
Right.
Like you said, he's a nut. We never should have hired him. We're going to get somebody better. Don't worry, little town.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah,
you'd
nothing
think
that I
it'd be
could find to
denied,
that.
denied, denied. No, that never. But they never came out and said no, that never happened.
Right.
Which that seems to be the first thing that happens anytime there's any kind of little green men controversy or whatever. They go, yeah, that never happened. He was a little bit crazy. Whatever.
Yeah.
We never should have had a gun. That kind of stuff. But they said nothing.
They said nothing that I could find.
I don't know. I'm leaning more towards something happened to him. I think something definitely happened to that man. I think that, like I said, I think that him maintaining that story and him maintaining the same narrative over and over and over again,
exact same
ever
narrative,
since
too.
it happened, and all his life going to shit and him continuing to stick with his story, I think something happened to him. I think he definitely saw something.
You can put the interview that he did somewhere between 2020 and 2021 and the original articles that were coming out in the newspaper. You can line them up side by side, and they literally parallel each other with the story. Not a detail is changed. There is nothing added to it. There is nothing taken away. It is all the same, step by step by step by step of the night of the encounter. And we are
So
talking
he's still alive.
He is still
He was
alive.
interviewed between 2020 and 2021.
Yes, he is still alive as far as I know, unless something has happened to him within the last almost 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, because as the date of the article that was written, July the 10th of 2021, he was still alive. So unless something has happened to him within the last 6 months, he's still alive.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's still maintaining his story just the same as
to
it
this
was
day.
the night that happened.
I wonder if he wants to go on a date sometime.
Now, but here's one more little. I'll throw one more little thing that I thought about, and he kind of alludes to it too in this interview. Is okay, when he first saw it, he thought, oh, it's aluminum foil, or something like that. That's what it looked like to him. But he also stated that after everything happened, he crashes his patrol car. It gets away. It goes in the woods, never to be seen again. He's looking at the scene. There is not one piece of this suit anywhere on the ground. And if it is some hoodlum, in fact, doing a hoax, making a prank, using aluminum foil, we use aluminum foil every single day. We know, well, maybe not every single day, but a lot. We know how easy that crap is to tear, how easy that is to wrinkle, and stuff like that. And it's how confined that suit could feel if you're
scratchy
at
and it's
35
clunky.
miles an hour.
Not,
Yeah, you're running at 35 miles
apart.
an hour. I mean, it's going to completely fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that a little bit interesting as well.
Yeah, the suit's going to fall apart, and you're not going to be able to run 35 miles an hour in that clunky ass suit. And humans just don't run 35 miles per hour in the first place.
Period. Exactly.
I mean, unless it's Usain Bolt in that suit running around, I don't think it's. Yeah.
But even Usain Bolt can't go 9 feet in a stride. I mean,
No.
he's fast, but he's not that fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, damn.
So that's the
like
Alabama Metal Man. That's
hopping like a bunny rabbit.
Holy shit, man!
That's cool.
I
hadn't heard that one.
I found it very interesting because it is very obviously it's not as popular as the other cryptids that we know of. As
maybe because there's only one sighting of it.
Could be.
At least to the best of my knowledge, there's only one sighting documented.
You would think that there would be a lot more talk about it though, with having photographic evidence.
True.
That doesn't exist anymore.
That doesn't exist anymore. I mean, you would think that there would be a lot more discussions and articles and stuff about it because you have photographic evidence. But literally in this book that I have, it's 3 paragraphs long. That's the story. That's it.
Wow.
And compared to others that are 3, 4, 5 pages long.
Yeah. Oh, God, and others that whole books have been written about, so.
Right. Exactly. So, interesting case in Falkville, Alabama. October 17th of 1973, the Alabama Metal Man.
Damn.
Very cool. That's one I did not know the story about. Congratulations. That's a good one.
Yeah, that is such a cool story. I mean, you were able to tell me about something I didn't know about.
Yes! Toot, toot, motherfucker.
Y'all, seriously, when I say this is like a contest between us, it really is.
Absolutely.
It's like when we get on the phone to have our calls about what we're going to talk about and what order we're going to go in and who's going to read it and who's going to do all this. We go, oh, by the way, I found something. And everybody's ears perk up. I'm like, have y'all ever heard of? That is literally how it goes. Oh, by the way, have y'all ever heard of? And then everybody waits. And what you're hoping is for 2 no's. And one of these assholes, you go, yeah, I've heard of it. Crap. I didn't win this week. That we did.
Unless you're me, and then I wait and I hear both of them go, oh yeah, we know about that. Bullshit. I am more of the hauntings and haunted locations. So when I try and bring up, I just know not to try and bring up cryptids, true crimes, aliens. I just lose out.
But now we're going to move into one that I have definitely heard of. But the details of the story, this is not a cryptid that I have delved deeply into, you know, because I'm more of a mainstream cryptid kind of girl, you know, the Bigfoot and the Loch Ness monster and this. Yep. But this one, I mean, I'm a big fan of the Rougarou. We're going to be talking a little Rougarou at some point. But we're going to be talking about the Flatwoods monster. And Ryan, I know that you got a special little place in your heart for him.
I do. Flatwoods, I mean, it's another one of those West Virginia creepy ass like cryptids, you know, similar to the Mothman and kind of in that Appalachian region, all those Appalachian cryptids, you know, that you read so much about. And we'll cover some more of those later, like I said, with the Mothman, the Kelly goblins, the / Hopkinsville goblins and stuff like that. But tonight we're going to talk about the Flatwoods monster. Now,
what's going on up there in the Appalachian Mountains? There seems to be way too many hoodoo, voodoo, weirdo things coming out of there. Are we sure it's just not inbred people?
I mean, I think it is.
Easy there, Blake.
Easy.
Wait a minute, Blake's broken. Hang on.
Bush snake shit show, Shelley.
Yeah.
Don't even. Listen, I just got myself composed. I did well. Look at me, my eyes are already watering up.
I was gonna say, I think because there's so much, and like we all have watched the Hellier documentary. And one of the things they brought up in the Hellier documentary is like someone said, well, why so many cryptids and creepy things going on in those mountains? Well, because there's so much forest, they can disappear in there pretty easily. There's caves and forests and everything else. I mean, if something doesn't want to be seen, it don't got to be seen. It can just go up into the mountain somewhere. So I think that might have a little something to do with it. But with this Flatwoods monster, what happened is this thing is called the Braxton County monster sometimes, or sometimes it's referred to as the Green Monster. And it was spotted in 1952 in Flatwoods, West Virginia. Now, this happened in Braxton County, West Virginia, and the town of Flatwoods has a population of 277 people. So it is a tiny little town.
Oh, damn. Yeah.
Up there in the Appalachian Mountains. And interestingly enough, it's about 120 miles from Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where years later, yes, we have, where years later, where the Mothman will be sighted. But I digress. Anyway, so on September the 12th, 1952, about 7:20 p.m., 13-year-old Eddie May, 12-year-old Freddie, his brother, Freddie May, and 10-year-old Tommy Heyer were all playing football at the local middle school. And one of them looked up into the sky and noticed a giant red fireball flying over. And they all said that it was pear-shaped and glowing red and was flying extremely low. And they thought it was going to crash. But it made several maneuvers and then came to rest on a hillside on Bailey Fisher's farm there in Flatwoods. It was like a wooded area kind of on the edge of town, kind of set up on the other side of town, and people could see it. And when it came down, it made a controlled landing when it hit. And when it landed, it shook nearby homes and knocked out radio communications for a little bit. So that's the first weird thing that happened. People, whatever. So the boys thought
Eddie,
it could have
Freddie,
been
and Tommy playing football, and they see something go streaming overhead. Okay, I'm with you so far.
Go streaming overhead and crash into the hillside on the edge of town.
Okay.
Well, they thought it could have been a meteor. And at the time, they were like, hey, we were at school. We heard meteors can be worth money. Maybe we should go up there and see if it's a meteor. But they said, well, we don't want to go up there by ourselves. So let's go home and tell our mom and see what our mom says and see if she'll come up there with us.
Your mom ain't going to let you go.
She's like, nah, man, you ain't going up there. What the hell are you talking about? But so the boys run home.
Mama, go investigate. You stay here.
So the boys run home and they go get their mom, Kathleen May. Now, there's a bunch of kids running up in her house freaking out about, hey, guess what we just saw crash into the hillside? We just saw a meteor go over. There's a bunch of stuff going on out there. We want to go see it. Come on, let's go. And she was like, whatever. She was real skeptical at first. So she steps outside I think she stepped outside to have a cigarette, or she stepped outside for some reason.
What year was this?
1952.
Yeah, she stepped outside to have a cigarette.
Yeah. And so she looks towards the hillside where the wooded area is, and she sees a pulsating red light in the woods. And she thought, well, maybe there's a little something to what they said. Maybe, what they described sounded more like a plane crash. Maybe there's a plane crash up there. We should go up there to see if everybody's okay and go see what's up on that hillside. So she told the boys to go get their cousin, who was a local National Guardsman. He was 17-year-old Eugene Lemon. And they told him what the deal was. They told him what they saw. And Eugene grabbed his flashlight and his dog and decided he was going to lead the party up the hill to go investigate to see what happened. So
flashlight and a dog's all you need, right?
Oh man, flashlight and a dog. Hey.
Sorry, this sounds like West Virginia, where this is. Got my flashlight and my dog. Don't need nothing else. That dog will kill you.
It's like, you're going to see if there's a plane crash. You ain't going on a coon hunt, I mean,
No shit.
True. My bad. I apologize. I am mistaken. You're right. All you do need is a flashlight and a dog. I don't know what I was thinking. My apologies.
So they decide they're going to go up here and go look. So he's leading the group. And they go up the hill, and as they're climbing the hill, they hear a mechanical whirring sound coming from the woods, and they can't quite figure out what it is. They're just like, what the hell is that?
But it could still support a plane crash.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, at this point, the dog decides it's going to run out in front of him and takes off up the hill. And the dog crests the ridge at the top of the hill, and they hear the dog just barking and going absolutely insane. And the dog then starts whining and comes tearing ass back down the hill towards the group with its tail between its legs and trembling. So like it gets back behind and this dog is freaking out. And then, you know how dogs are. If they see something that scares the crap out of them, they'll let you know.
Oh yeah.
And this dog did exactly that and comes back down and is like hanging with the group, but it's like freaking out and trembling, but nonetheless continues to go back up to the crest of the hill with the group because he's a trusty old dog. I'm going to go with my owner. I'm not going to leave him behind, even though whatever the hell is over this ridge is scary as hell. I'm going to go with him.
Dog's like, tried to warn him.
Mm-hmm. You want to keep going? You go right ahead, but I guess I'll have to go with you, you dumbass. I don't want to go, And as they pressed on, they began to notice a warm, smoky vapor surrounding the group. And the vapor smelled of sulfur, and they said that it started burning their eyes and their noses. And it was just like almost unbearable, but they continued to press on. And Kathleen said she heard a hissing noise, and the mist began to thicken around them. So I don't know about y'all, but if the dog
I would have gone home.
Right? If the dog is freaking out, and I'm starting to get my eyes burned by some kind of creepy ass mist, and I'm hearing like all kinds of weird noises in the woods, I'm turning my ass around and going back home.
Shit. Bye.
I am investigate these nuts. I ain't going nowhere. I'm going home. But they continue to go. They continue to press on. And as they crest the hill, they look to their right, and about 50 feet to their right, they see a craft in a gully. Now, this craft was about 20 feet wide, and they said it was about the size of a house, and it was black, but it was glowing and pulsating with red light from within every so often. And as they're admiring this craft and looking at this craft to the right, the dog is behind them, and it begins growling at a wooded area to the left of the group, to the back and left of the group. And they turn around, and the dog's hair is standing up on the back of its neck, like it's standing on end. The dog is freaking out. There's something there. So the group thought that they saw a pair of glowing eyes in the brush, and Eugene turned his flashlight in the direction, and what they saw terrified them and changed their lives forever. What they saw about 10 feet away from them, standing in the woods, was a creature. It was hovering about a foot off the ground. It stood 10 to 12 feet tall, and it had a dark metallic body. And when the flashlight beam passed over the body was so shiny that it reflected the flashlight beam off of it. And the bottom half of the body, they said, looked like a metallic skirt or pleated drapes, is the way Kathleen described them. The upper half was consisted of a head that had a round metallic blood red face, eyes that looked like portholes, and they had yellow beams coming out. And it looked like it was wearing a hood or a cowl shaped like an ace of spades and had long, spindly arms with claw-like hands. So they start freaking out when they see this thing. And Freddie...
yeah, I'd have freaked out a little too.
And Blake, do you have the picture? Do you have a picture of it? You can...
but first, Paula wants to know if it's Liberace.
You know what? That actually is a very good guess. You know what? Look at that.
Now,
Paula's right. It's Liberace.
I mean, you got this thing hovering in the woods just at your 6. You turn around and you're seeing this thing, and it's gigantic, and it's coming towards you. I believe, I might have died right there on the spot. I ain't gonna lie to you. I mean,
it looks like the Alabama Metal Man's grandma. It does.
A little bit, don't it?
Hello, would you like a cookie? It's like, what are you doing? It does.
Oh, damn it, Shelley.
How would you like some tea?
It's like, Mimi, you're here. So she's just okay. That was a little more frightening. Yeah. But she's coming out of this pulsating black house. It looks like they had got a disco going on because it's got the lights and shit going in. It got this weird smoke coming out of it. That sounds like a really good house party to me. And then you got Mimi over here, Mimi Metal Man over here in the woods. I mean, she does. I'm saying she. I mean, did anybody check to see what the gender was?
I mean, I don't think I would have. I think I would have turned tail and ran.
Oh my god!
I'm not sticking around to figure out if it's male or female, whatever the hell it is.
I think I would have said hey to Mimi. Been like, hey, what's up? Can I come to your house party? It looks like it's a banging lot of fun.
Mimi Metal Man.
It does.
Paula says it's the Alabama Metal Man, but with a costume change. This is the second sighting. Sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
It's okay. No worries. Freddie speculated that it was a robot or a spacesuit and later told the Charleston Daily Mail, quote, "It was mechanical. It was not alive. Maybe inside the thing there was something that could have been alive, but what I saw was a suit of some kind, something it was wearing." So when they see this thing, the encounter that happened is this entity lurched towards the group ever so slowly. Like it lurched towards them and began to float in their direction. It spit out an oil-like substance, some of which landed on Kathleen. She was quoted in an article I read that said that it got all over her uniform. I think she was still wearing her work uniform when they went up on top of the hill. And it began to glide towards the group. And while it was coming towards them, it was making a thumping sound that was like coming from inside of the suit or the being or whatever the hell it was.
Anybody else get the image of like Tom and Jerry on the hamster wheel, like pedaling to make this thing go just running on that hamster wheel to make it because she said she was lurching.
Like lurching and like gliding,
And she was spitting oil, huh?
Yeah, it spit oil all over Kathleen.
A lot of women at the time did dip snuff. Maybe she just spitting out her snuff.
That's true.
You said it was a meemaw. So
it was a Mimi Metal Man.
But about this time, as it's coming towards the group, it made a shrill hissing sound and shot more of that noxious mist into the air and gassed them.
She tooted on them?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys made me ink.
Be like, oh, y'all, I'm sorry. That, gravy just goes right through me.
Oh, I shouldn't have had the Brunswick stew.
I need my pills.
This is such a serious topic for these witnesses and these people that experienced this, and yet we're just sitting here cracking it. Funny.
Okay, it is funny. Trust me,
funny.
because if I came out claiming to have seen a metal Mimi in the woods, y'all would be laughing your ass off at me, and don't even think you wouldn't be. I know how this would roll. They'd be like, Shelley, were you drunk? No, I swear to God, I wasn't this time.
No fireball was involved in this.
Yeah, put down the fireball.
Put down the fireball. Yeah. So Mimi Metal Man is now coming out. She's
Lurching
floating at
towards.
him. She's tooted this noxious gas everywhere.
Mhm. And Eugene gets so scared that he drops his damn flashlight, and he has to reach down and pick it up. And when he reaches down to pick it up, he gets a face full of that mist, which is not good for him. And I'll tell you why in a minute.
So his dog's done runned off, and he dropped his flashlight. Sounds like he lost the two things he thought he needed.
Yes, the two most important things he brought on the hill with him. Yes. So terrified, the group begins to run downhill and back to town. One of the witnesses said they saw Kathleen actually jump a gate like she was in the Olympics to get the hell away from this thing. So,
come on, Kathleen, hell yeah,
go Kathleen.
I said, Mama's an Olympic hurdler apparently. So they all get back down the hill, and after they get back down the hill, most of the group becomes violently ill from inhaling that noxious fume that came out of whatever was there. And they said that some of them began vomiting, some developed skin rashes, swollen throats, and red, irritated eyes. Now, Eugene, like I said, he got a face full of it, so he got it the worst. They said he inhaled a good bit, and he suffered vomiting and convulsions the rest of the night. And his throat was swollen for weeks after the encounter. And not only that, but his dog died 2 days later.
Aww.
Be it from being terrified or maybe inhaling that noxious fume, who knows? As a matter of fact, a doctor in town later examined the group and said their symptoms were similar to that of someone who had been exposed to mustard gas. So,
wow.
I'm almost wondering if the oil slick that it shot out of it and then the noxious fume that was almost like a defense mechanism, like, hey, get the hell away from me. I don't want nothing to do with y'all. Go away. Leave me alone. Or
maybe it was just busted and it was leaking.
That could be it too.
All of this happening, like the convulsions, the vomiting, all of that stuff. This is documented from doctors, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I found in my research that a doctor saw the group and said that their symptoms were similar to mustard gas exposure.
Wow.
Yeah. So I can't explain that. You know, you got some kind of.
That adds a whole nother level to it whenever you've got a
doctor confirming symptoms.
Yeah, the only thing I would want to know is what is the relation to the family with the doctor? Is the
That's true.
Doctor a very good friend? Is it just the town doctor that?
Well, if he got, I grew up in a small town. Everybody knew the doctor.
Right.
And there were two doctors.
Right.
So.
But also too, there were also other, like I said, there was someone who wasn't related to them who was also in the group, and he was also examined. So that could be,
right.
You know, I don't know.
And then you have the dog passing that adds to it as well, because the dog was, that's a different level. Because I kind of knew you're telling me a lot of stuff I didn't know. I knew bits and pieces of this story and about this cryptid and this sighting, but I didn't know that there was a doctor that checked him, and I also didn't know that the dog passed away. Yep,
the dog ended up dying. So I couldn't find if it was from exposure to whatever this was, or like I said, it was probably damn terrified of what it encountered. I'm sure it probably had a heart attack and croaked a few days later, but we don't know. So when they get over some of their symptoms, when Kathleen gets her composure a little bit, she goes inside and she calls the sheriff at about 8:45 p.m. Well, the sheriff was busy investigating a possible plane crash about 11 miles away, and according to some of the research, they think that whatever the sheriff was investigating could have been misconstrued for what happened in Flatwoods. That someone called it in, and he just happened to go to the wrong area of town or the wrong area of the county when this really happened on this Woodside Hill, and he's out investigating the same thing, but just doesn't know it.
Okay, so there's other people that had called in and said we saw something in the sky, not just Freddie, Teddy, and Tim, or Freddie and Eddie. And I'm right. Freddie, Eddie, and Tim, right?
Yeah, it's just the way you said it. It's just Freddie, Eddie, and Tim, and
I believe it's Tim. It's Freddie, Eddie, and let me double check. Let me go backwards.
That's okay. That's okay. It ain't important. But there was somebody else other than these three little hooligans playing, football out in the field, just running in to aggravate Mama.
As a matter
Mama
of fact,
thought they were playing.
There was actually a school board member who said he saw a UFO in the area that night. There was also a person who lived on a ridge on the other side of town that said he saw with his binoculars something in the woods pulsating red, and he was looking at it, and then it eventually stopped pulsating, so he didn't even call it in. So there was also a witness to that. There is evidence of several UFO sightings in the area, which I'll get to later, that actually is kind of significant here in a little bit. But so yeah, it's like a bunch of people kind of saw something similar to what the boys described landing that night in the woods.
And are reporting it.
Yeah, from several different vantage points.
Okay, so there was something in the sky. We have
something
other
happened.
Documented reports that something was in the sky. So if nothing else, we know there was something in the sky. We don't know for sure what it is.
We definitely know that something happened. We don't know what it is, but just yet. So since the sheriff was busy, she called the state troopers. The state troopers sent a photojournalist named Ailey Stewart Jr. to the scene, and he arrived at about 9:00 and coaxed the terrified Eugene to take him up to the scene of the sighting. So Eugene was still like having his convulsions and coughing and stuff, but he was still somehow coaxed into taking Ailey Stewart up so he could take pictures and see what was going on.
Wait, so Eugene is having him bouts of nausea and vomiting and diarrhea and passing out in convulsions, but his buddy's like, hey, let's go ahead and go on up one more time. Eugene goes, okay, let me get my dog.
In other words, Ryan, that's you and I are Eugene, and Shelly's like, get up, let's go.
Right, I am. I'm the one going, you'll be fine. Come on, let's just go look. Yeah, you know what, really, you'll be fine.
I can take care of you later. Just get up. Come on,
look it off. God, you big babies, let's go. Yeah, you're right.
They said that when Eugene went back up the hill to show him where it happened, he was shaking like a leaf on a tree, not just from convulsions, but from fear as well.
Ooh.
And when he got up there, he smelled a sickening odor that he described as ozone or a burnt out old television. So he smelled some sort of,
like, I don't even know what ozone
you've smelled ozone before. Like that's what, basically whenever a TV, like the old tube televisions burn out, that's what that smell is. It's got a distinctive smell to it. So that's what he said he smelled when he goes up there. Hey, I've had an old television tube blow out on me before.
I haven't.
Yeah, you have.
No, I haven't.
But yeah, so he smelled that sickening odor that he described like a burnt out television, and he found a pair of long tracks that were about 1 foot wide and 12 feet apart, and noticed that there was an oily substance on the ground in the tracks when he was up there. So he interviews everybody that it happened to, and he actually gets them to draw what they saw, and they all draw very similarly that same picture that Blake put up earlier.
I've actually got the picture of them with the drawing, with the police sketch drawing. And if I remember correctly, that is Kathleen on the right, and then on the left is the oldest son.
I cannot. That might be Eugene. That might be their cousin. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong.
Yeah, because the other two were younger.
That's right. So that's the cousin. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's the cousin.
So that's Eugene, and Kathleen's the mama.
Yep. Kathleen's the mama. And they all described the same thing, and they all drew the same thing whenever Ailey Stewart had them do this. So he gets all of his findings collected, and so he calls back and tells the police officers everything that happened. So they were like, well, this job ain't this ain't for us. We're going to call the Air Force. So then they call in the Air Force. And the Air Force contacts the West Virginia Air Force National Guard head, Dale Levitt. So Levitt shows up later on that night at about like 1:30 in the morning with about anywhere from 30 to 50 men is what they said. And he goes up there to where it happened, and he begins to take soil and vegetation samples of the area. He takes a sample of the oily substance, and he described it as graphite grease is what he said. The consistency and everything about it was. And then he said where in that gully on the right, 50 feet to the right where they saw the craft, he found a 20-foot impression in the ground. And in doing a sweep of the area, they found a metallic fragment and a black piece of plastic-like material, and they sent it off to analysis to the Air Force and never heard a damn thing about it ever again. So who knows what all that was. And that sounds about right for about the Air Force in the 1950s, because if you know anything about the Air Force, they were doing Project Blue Book, where they were investigating all these UFO sightings that had been happening. And they just kind of never followed up with anybody. You saw this thing, we're going to send them out there, we're going to collect stuff, and we're just going to do our own thing. Screw you, we don't care. Even though it happened to you, we don't care what happened to you. So he does that and never hears anything back. Now, about 5 or 6 hours later, this creature is spotted again. But this time it's a little bit different. On September the 13th, 1952, 20 miles away in Fraytown, West Virginia, a young couple was driving down a remote back road. Their car stalls, and the husband gets out to see what is going on with the car. He can't figure it out. He's out there messing with it, and he looks to his left, and he sees in the woods a light coming out of the woods. So he goes to investigate. He walks over, and he becomes overwhelmed by the smell of sulfur. And it starts to choke him out, and he starts to cough and hack and everything. So he goes back to the car. He's like, I don't know, I want to deal with whatever this is. I got to go back to the car. So he goes back to the car and is sitting in the front seat. And he's sitting there with his wife, and his wife screams. And they look up, and what they saw was an entity coming out of the woods. Now, this entity was 7 to 9 foot tall, had a similar skirt lower half like the one saw in Flatwoods did. And it was hovering off the ground again, but this time it had a humanoid torso, a reptilian head, and the same long, spindly claw-like hands that were described as the Flatwoods encounter. They said this thing floated around the car several times, looking at the couple inside the car, placed 2 of its fingers on the hood of the car, and the heat from the entity, whatever it was, caused the paint to bubble and blister on the hood of the car. And
No, ma'am, Pam.
yeah.
No. I'd be hitting the gas. I'd be out.
Well, the car's stalled. He can't go nowhere. Like, there's nowhere they can go. They're sitting ducks. They're sitting there seeing this thing.
I got feet.
So as this thing is circling the car, it does that, is looking at them, and it finally turns around and goes back into the woods. And a minute later, they noticed a pulsating ball of light rise up out of the woods and dart off into the sky. And as soon as it was out of sight, the car started again, and they went on their way. So this thing is causing electrical disturbances too.
What the shit?
So that was the last time that we know that it was spotted. And so people in this area were freaking out. So the Air Force comes out, and once again, they're investigating. And we do know that since Project Blue Book became declassified, that they showed up, they investigated, and their official story was that what the boys saw was a meteor, and that the pulsating red light was a plane beacon on another hillside, and that the tracks and oily substance was from someone driving up on the hill, which was impossible because no one could get up there. And the noxious smell was a pungent type of grass that was native to West Virginia. The mist was fog, and that the illness was mass hysteria. They also stated that the monster was a barn owl, and the thumping sound was the flapping of wings as the barn owl approached the group, and that the claws that they saw were the talons on a barn owl.
Okay, why do they always say it's a damn barn owl?
No
Why?
shit.
Right?
Because there have been several cryptid stories in that area, and they all say it's always a barn owl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know
And
what?
that
What
happens-
kind of damn barn owls they got going on up there?
Yeah, what kind of
barn
barn
owls are
owl
y'all raising?
has a metal skirt and a helmet, is thumping, shooting oil out everywhere, and
Farting
shooting noxious
noxious
gas
fumes.
Yeah,
at
farting.
everybody?
Crazy ass noxious.
That ain't happening. So that was the Air Force's official findings. Now,
And
Yeah,
for
but
all
it's-
that to have come together at the exact moment that they saw
Mhm.
all the shit happen at the same time. Now, bullshit, Air
Mhm.
Force.
Exactly.
Well, you know,
And-
it's all just gonna just gloss it over, cover it up as best as you can, make
Yeah.
it polish the turd and make it look pretty, basically, and just ship it on out. Still a fucking turd with noxious gas coming out her ass.
Because what it really sounds like it was a damn transformer. Because she gets
Or
in there,
something.
she getting her thing. All of a sudden, she goes back, and Mimi Metal Man goes in the woods. Up she goes. She flies away. She transformed into something else, and off she flew. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and that was their official story. As a matter of fact, Kathleen stated years later that she was visited by 2 men who claimed they were salesmen at first, but then admitted that they were from the Air Force, and that and told her what she saw was a barn owl and a meteor.
And what were they wearing?
She didn't say. They weren't men in black.
Yes, she did.
But
Oh,
they
I'm
weren't
sure
men
they
in
were.
black, but she claimed that she was visited by these 2 people. Now,
They were men in black.
here
I
is
almost
where
guarantee you
Oh,
they were.
absolutely. Most definitely. Or they probably acted strange, and they were probably.
Here come
Yeah.
the men in black.
But now here's where the story gets a little bit of credence. It was not a meteor, because there are records of a radar station, several like radar stations in the area, picking up a UFO flying over the White House at about 7 o'clock that night. It flew over the White House, and its actual trajectory and path passed right over Flatwoods, and correlates to the exact time the boy saw something go down in the woods at about 7:15, because it was coming across and went south and went right over Flatwoods, right over Braxton County.
Really?
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So,
And this is a government radar station, right?
I can't remember if it was from my research. I just believe, like, I don't think it was military. I think it was just several radar stations in the area that were like air trafficking, if I remember correctly.
But it's documented.
But it's documented. Yes, it is documented that they tracked something that was unexplained go over the White House that night at 7 o'clock, and then like track over Braxton County at about 7:15.
Wow.
About the time the boys said they saw what they saw. And as a matter of fact, Kathleen later ends up dying of cancer. And she swore up and down on her deathbed and at the end of her life that had she not encountered that monster and not breathed in whatever that noxious fume was, she may not have died of cancer.
So, quick question: was there anybody else in the family that had a history of cancer, or did anybody else who was on that hill get cancer?
I couldn't find that. I found Kathleen ended up dying of cancer. I couldn't find if anybody else did. I do know that Freddie and his brother are still alive.
Freddie and Eddie are still alive.
Some of them, I was going to say, some are young enough that they could potentially still be alive.
They'd
have to be in their
80s, 90s if they were 9 or 10, and that's now 80 years ago.
1952,
70
years ago. They're 9 and 10. They could be.
They could be 80 or 90.
Yeah, I mean they're very old, but they still they've been interviewed on the History Channel. They've been interviewed for a documentary. There's a really, really good production company called Small Town Monsters, and they do documentaries on cryptids. And they were interviewed in the documentary for Small Town Monsters. I have not had a chance to watch it. I really, really want to get my hands on it, but I couldn't.
You need to review it for us.
Yes, I will definitely do that, probably for one of my reviews on Patreon. But so that is the story of the Flatwoods monster. Now, what do I think it was? I think that Freddie was right. I think it was some sort of, I think there was definitely something that was living inside of the suit or whatever it was that needed it to be on the planet or something of that nature. I don't think it was an additional craft. I just think it was like maybe a suit or some sort of apparatus that it used to go out and
adapt to
terrain and stuff like that.
Survive.
Yeah. I don't know. So it kind of skirts the line between like cryptid, alien, whatever the hell it was. I definitely think what they said they saw, and that official U.S. Air Force explanation is a bunch of bullshit. Because that, like I said, that if an owl was going to fly at you, it's not making a thumping sound. And also, when it comes to the pungent grass, like, what grass smells like, even if it's like, what plants and stuff. If you're native to the area,
I have
you've been living there.
There's stinkweed near where I live. I know what that smells like.
Exactly. If you're native to the area, you've lived there your whole life, and they're going to tell you that all of a sudden you started smelling a plant that, what the vegetation in the area smells like. And once again, there's not an owl shooting fucking smoke and oil at you either. And it didn't fly a spaceship that landed in the damn gully.
At least not shooting it out of its ass.
No.
Yeah, hoot hoot, motherfucker.
But to this day, like some of those people, like I believe it was the kids that saw it initially. I mean, they're like, I wish we didn't see what we saw, but we did, and it scared the bejesus out of us.
Did we ever find out what happened to Eugene? The guy who only needed a dog and a flashlight?
I think he got better after a while. All I found was that he suffered the worst out of any of them for the next couple of weeks. So,
but he recovered.
If I remember correctly, yes. I would willing to bet. I think he is dead, but I know like the little kids that were at the.
Yeah, if he was 17 and that was 80 something years ago, yeah.
But I don't know. So what do y'all think it was?
Barn owl.
I agree. Definitely.
Barn owl with stinkweed.
Fucking barn owl. I'm sorry, but you just said they're claiming this thing is how tall? 7, 8, 9 feet.
According
I ain't
to
seen
the
many
original,
barn owls with a dress on either. So
that too. Yeah,
that's floating about a foot off the ground.
Seen a lot of things with a dress on. Barn owl not being one of them.
The original group claimed that it was 9 to 12 feet tall, and then the couple claimed it was 7 to 9 feet tall. What they saw.
All right, what kind of fucking barn owl?
Yeah.
What are y'all raising?
Exactly, are we talking about? Because the barn owls that I know are only 2 feet tall ish. You know.
Yeah.
That's still a big damn barn owl. I don't even think they're 2 feet, are they?
No. I mean,
No.
unless it's fucking Shaq dressed up like a barn owl hanging out there in the damn wilderness, you know, I can't explain that.
Shaq and drag.
How you doing?
Maybe Dennis Rodman might be a better comparison for that.
That's true.
I've seen Dennis Rodman in some wild ass costumes.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know.
No, it's the same. You know, it's just like with the Alabama Middleman. You know, I mean, there's different documentation taking place from different sources in different areas that all allude to the exact same thing that is happening. Seeing things in the sky, multiple witnesses, then doctors are involved. It's just there's a lot of credibility to it. You know,
absolutely.
I'm not going to sit here and say that the humans are the only ones in this universe and or even on this planet. You know, so
yeah,
I believe that they had saw something.
Yeah, I mean,
what I would label it as cryptid alien, I don't know. I'm up in the air because I see your point of view that it could have been, and the one of the guys' points of view in the story could have been a suit that they were wearing to be able to be mobile on our planet, and it could have been an alien. But my whole thing is like with the arms, the long spindly arms and all that stuff. You know, that kind of leans it more towards the cryptid for me. I don't know. I don't know where I would throw it in classification wise.
I know, like, kind of like, you know, comparing it to the Alabama Metal Man, these people, as far as I know, never saw a dime from their story. Right. They just were people that had something happen out of the ordinary to them, and they had a story and they wanted to tell people. And in a lot of cases, maybe in this particular case, they didn't want to tell people because, you know, it got out, and I'm sure they were probably made fun of. I'm sure they were probably ridiculed in town the rest of their lives for seeing what they saw. So once again, you know, these people have every reason to not tell their story and to change their story and to redact their story, but they haven't. And we have physical evidence. I mean, the Air Force colonel or the Air Force leader, he gathered physical evidence. He gathered vegetation. He gathered the oily substance. He gathered what was at the scene. We have physical evidence. We have a doctor saying this happened to these people. They got sick.
We have a radar station tracking something on the same trajectory.
And it was serious enough for Project Blue Book to go out there and investigate. So I have no doubt in my mind that they saw something. And that, once again, I think that they probably wish they hadn't. Even though it's something out of this world and something that no one else has seen, you know, they seem like they're just simple folk who want to live just a good life and don't want all that attention, but it's just something that happened to them out of the ordinary. So yeah, that's the story of the Flatwoods monster.
Interesting. Makes me think. Them damn barn owls just running wild up there.
Yeah, barn owls running amok.
In their metallic skirts and long spindly claws.
That's something else too. Think about a barn owl's claws, or think about the claws or the talons of an owl. They're not going to be long and spindly. I mean, they can stretch their legs out pretty far. Yeah. But they can't stretch their legs out to where they could be mistaken for arms. Okay.
But they're also not 7, 8, 9, 10 fucking feet tall. I mean, no. It just And I'm pretty damn sure there's not fucking ostriches or emus in West Virginia. I mean, shit.
No.
I mean, I don't know. There could be.
Not
Somebody's
that
gonna
can
have a
not
weird
that
farm.
can hover a foot off the ground and glide towards them.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that's their story. And
Interesting.
mhm.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. I agree. I think they saw something because just as investigators, I mean, we've seen things that make us sound crazy. You
Mhm.
know?
Oh yeah,
So-
we sound like
Absolutely.
lunatics a lot.
Oh God. I mean, it's
Mhm.
case in point, me on the phone with y'all driving home, you know, being ready, ending with the freaking podcast phone call that we usually do after this. And I'm like, the fuck is that in the sky? And
Mhm.
I literally turn left on a road, flip a bitch basically, and come back to the stop sign, and it's gone.
Gone.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting there trying to turn my camera on and turn it around for y'all to be able to see. I can't.
I've already
find this
explained that
thing.
to you. That's because you're being tracked, and we don't want no part of it.
Just because they love me.
Yes. They
However,
can love you all they want to. They need to stay the hell away from me.
listen, I say it every time on the episodes or on our phone call. There are things that I may know allegedly, but I don't know enough for y'all to come visit me.
And again, I don't know shit.
I don't know
Shelly
nothing.
don't know shit.
Like I said, I'm
I
like
just-
Schultz from Hogan's Heroes. I know nothing.
I just don't want to see no black Cadillacs or two guys in black suits step out.
Nope.
Nope. Because y'all know I'm gonna be hitting that phone call, and y'all better answer as soon as they start walking in
Oh,
my
yeah.
door.
I lost your number. I don't know who this is. Hello.
Prank caller, prank caller, prank caller. Hang on.
Answer the door. No, I'm so sorry. You're trying to reach Shelly.
No, she's not here. In fact, I think she's. I don't think she's with us
Oh.
anymore. Just move on. Have a nice day. Good day, sir.
I said good day.
Good day.
That's right.
Well, interesting
throwback.
story. I liked it. That's that gave me a lot more than I did know about it. So I'm mulling it over in my head now.
I mean,
I have
me
not
too,
seen
honestly.
That picture of the Mimi Metal Man. I have not seen
Really?
that. That's I don't know how I missed that in all
Mhm.
of my, loving, all my love of digging up and looking up weird stories and conspiracy theories and stuff because I always look for the one that ain't nobody heard of.
Right.
And that way
Missouri Space Penguins.
I know you seriously got me on that one, and it's all I can do not to go like look them up like right this second. It was all I could do to go to bed last night after you were telling us about this and not go look it up. But I knew I would be up for like 4.5 hours doing a rabbit hole deep dive and I'm like,
Funny.
no, I'm gonna wait. This is Blake's story, and I'm gonna let him tell it. I want to be surprised. So yeah, I was just really surprised that I'd never. And I'd heard of the Flatwoods monster,
Mhm.
but I did not know the in-depth story. I kind of knew the overview of the story, but I'd never seen the picture.
Yeah, like so the Flatwoods Monster is one that I knew about like in some of my earliest like reading when I was a kid. There was a book at the library in the school that I went to, and the Flatwoods Monster was one of the stories in there. And I remember reading that book, and once again, because it's one of those like hodgepodge, it's like a Pollyanna of like everything under the sun when it comes to like UFOs and aliens and all that. And they told the basic story, but a lot of the details I ended up finding, it just makes that much more strange as to what happened. I had seen the picture. There's actually a picture that someone did where they kind of photoshopped that thing like underneath a tree, like in the woods and everything, and it kind of makes it that much more creepy. But yeah, so it's one that I ran across pretty early on, but did not know about the vegetation samples disappearing and about like the radar pinging whatever flew over the White House that night.
Yeah,
And
I didn't know that
I
either.
didn't know that. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure did not know that.
So
It's very interesting.
mhm.
It sounds like it has a lot of really good support evidence.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm with you. I believe that they saw something.
Mhm.
I believe that they saw something I couldn't explain. I believe they saw something I couldn't explain that the military suddenly became interested in. Now, was it from outer space? Who knows? We know as well as whenever we get into one particular area, which we're going to talk about soon, the military does develop aircraft that, as far as we know, we have never seen until we see it. And it's kept secret for a reason. So, well, I'm not going to go so far as to say it's a UFO. I might go as far as to say it might be a secret military aircraft.
Also, too, when we start getting into the realm of UFOs and aliens and things of that nature, the jury's still out on, are they from outer space? Are they from another dimension? Where are they from? So can we say it's extraterrestrial? No, it might be an ultra terrestrial. It could be from
Oh,
right
look
here.
at you. You're going to go jumping it. We ain't jumping into ultra terrestrials right now. You can just back that up. Back that truck up. It can't park here. Not today. That's a discussion for another day.
Oh,
Yes, that is absolutely, along with those Appalachian crazy people.
Oh, yeah.
When we going to go, tour around in the Appalachian Mountains and go, I don't know,
I don't know, man.
sightseeing.
We can always go. The Appalachian Mountains are huge. They're from Georgia all the way up to Maine, but the area I'm familiar with runs from Georgia to about West Virginia. I ain't never really been up to Pennsylvania up that way, but
Yeah,
it's very pretty country, and there is a whole lot of strangeness going on out there.
exactly.
So I'm down whenever y'all are.
Me too. Y'all let me know.
We can go see the Brown Mountain Lights in North Carolina. I'll take y'all to go see, which will be another topic for another day too.
Hey, Paula wants to know about mega terrestrial or uber terrestrial.
No, not for this episode.
You gotta pay an Uber terrestrial to come to your house. So.
You do. Make sure to leave that 5-star review after.
That's right.
Well, y'all, we thank y'all so much for joining us for this episode of Everything Vaguely Paranormal. Please remember to go and follow us on all of our social media channels. We have a YouTube channel. We're on Facebook. We are on Twitch and Twitter, as well as Instagram. We don't use every single social media page for one thing. We use all for different reasons. So make sure you're following us across the board. And also, just a very quick announcement. If you have ever wanted to go on an investigation with us, the time is now. Your chance is available. We are starting to sell our tickets. Our tickets are live and available to purchase for the Gregg County Historical Museum. It's going to be on March the 12th, and it starts at 7 p.m. You can find the link to those tickets on our Facebook page or through eventbrite.com. Just search Everything Vaguely Paranormal. Shelley?
Well, I wanted to tell you guys, if you want them, this is an extremely small group.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Don't
Absolutely.
be thinking you're going to come in like a herd of cattle. That's not the way we work. This is a small group. Should we tell them that we're only doing this many tickets?
Yes, we only have 25 tickets available. Some
Very
have
limited.
already sold. It is extremely limited. So if you do want to
go get the tickets
get your
now.
tickets
We've already
now.
been selling some, and the people that found out about it that know us and wanted to go with us have already jumped on and bought tickets, and we're very grateful for them. But if you want to come and hunt with us and see what the Gregg County Museum is all about, that's quickly becoming one of our favorites. And that is something that we think you'd really like. But this is not a huge cattle call of a ghost hunt. This is one-on-one with us hunting, and you will be given a lot of freedom. And my big thing is I always want to let me go hunt. We're going to let you go hunt. Okay.
As Paula said, intimate guaranteed.
Oh, I'm not guaranteed to. What you talking about? That's Paula's part of the program. That's not mine.
That's Patreon content. Okay.
That's Patreon.
Yes, exactly.
Speaking of that,
Exactly.
our Patreon has launched. So if you want to go see things like Bedtime with Blake and Spirits with Shelley, oh child, and Ryan's reviews, and maybe if you want to catch the kind of crazy shit we talk about on our pre-broadcasts that made me to the point where I had to go and refix my makeup because I was crying in a good way, to the point where I couldn't breathe. Go. We're going to make it worth it for you. We're having
absolutely.
already so much fun with this. And then you can also, Ryan, as you say, if you like us on YouTube, what should you go and do, Mr. Ryan?
Go like us on YouTube, go comment, go on Apple Music, like and comment. That way it boosts our numbers and more people see us. And the more people see us, the more popular we get. And the more popular we get, the more content we can bring for y'all.
Exactly. The more we can get
the
out
more
and
ghost
explore.
trips you can go on with us too.
Exactly.
Yes,
the more we can get out of Texas and go to other parts of the country maybe and bring you some extra content from over there too. But once again, to reiterate, it is going to be a very limited number of people that are going to be able to come with us. So please get your tickets as fast as you possibly can, because I believe that it will sell out.
We're not overselling either. Once they're gone, they're gone.
And
Yeah.
So don't call any of us and go, "Hey, we're friends." I'm sorry. They're gone. I don't
Once the
have any
tickets are
friends
purchased,
after
they're
the number
purchased.
25 hits. Okay, just know
Yep,
it. Once it
that's
says
it.
sold out,
And-
I don't have any more friends.
you get to come have fun with us. You get to meet the rest of the crew and have fun with them. And you know how crazy we are. It's going to be a
And
good
this is a
time.
good one. And this is a good one. Like
Yeah.
Shelly said, it's quickly becoming one of our favorites. This was an untapped location
Mhm.
that we had the privilege to have unrestricted
Yeah, nobody else
access
has ever
to.
gotten it. You will be the first
Um,
public investigation in there.
Yes,
Yep,
at this
absolutely.
location. And we have captured all kinds of different things in this location. So it's
They
going to be a
really
fun
like
night.
me.
Yep. We can never guarantee paranormal activity, but we can guarantee we're going to have a blast trying. So
Absolutely.
again, y'all, thank y'all so much for joining us this week. Again, for my friends, Shelly Pruitt and Ryan Roberts, I am Blake Smith, and we will see you next Tuesday. Bye, y'all.